Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to episode 171 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today the one and only Chef Rush. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Chef Rush. What is up, brother?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm going to tell you a little story. I reached out to Chef Rush through social media. After a couple of days, he got back to me. I was all excited. And he did a little background check on me, which I love. He did a little homework, found out about us. And it's his honor to be speaking to you today, man. What are you up to, man?
Life, living, loving, caring, giving. We're givers, so that's what we do over here. But most of all, we try to put out the best positive energy in the world that we could possibly get. So it's all about that first and foremost. Yeah. And I have a lot of projects going on. Of course, I do all that stuff. But my first and final foundation is about us being together. So that's my lifestyle.
When did you start that foundation?
My foundation, very long time ago. You know, I have my own nonprofit as 222 Inc., which is all about kids, right? Yeah. My 501c3 started because I love kids, love helping them. I was an ambassador for Arnold Schwarzenegger's After School All-Star Kids. I've spoken to so many kids all around, every demographic you possibly think of with kids, from the ones that need that support, the ones who grew up in not the best neighborhoods, the ones who have, white collar, and we bridge that gap on how to bring them together, even with military kids, right? So, because everybody grows up differently. And wherever you're from, whether you be from Canada or LA or from Mississippi, like myself, opportunities are so vastly different. Yeah. And so I have to get them to understand about the opportunities and gratitude, humility, and also that financial securities, because a lot of kids this day and age, they don't understand it. And you have to start them young.
And nowadays, I don't know how it is where you're from there, but I'm sure it's the exact same. The housing market and everything like that, financial security is incredible. In Toronto, Canada, an average house is 1.5 million. Like, which kid with a student loan is going to be able to own a house one day and stuff like that? Things have changed so much. Cost of living keeps going up and up and up. And it's the next generation is really going to suffer.
No, you're right about that. You think about the gas prices now. Now it's going to be gas is kind of like an essential for us. Yeah. Now think about food. Food prices are going to go rocket sky high.
Well, they have been steadily. Yeah.
And people not noticing that change. They're like, oh, it's kind of like seeping in, but it's going more and more and more and more. And
it's funny because my wife, I've been married for 19 years. My wife, the other day, we're sitting on the couch, and all her groceries, we do online order. She orders it every Friday, delivered to the house, because you pay like $7. It's way better than going to a grocery store and standing there for an hour and stuff like that. And it's just the fresh produce she'll go pick up on a Saturday morning. And she was looking, and it's like every week she's like, the can of corn's gone up 40 cents. It's like every week it keeps going up and up and up. You don't realize it, but it just keeps up and up and up every single week.
Funny, and I'll get off topic. I'm actually launching my first food line on the 28th of this month, right? Called Chow Meals. Always fresh, never frozen, freshly cut, 48 states, and delivered, put together. But not only is it about the food, it's the lowest price in the market right now. And I made that very competitive. It's veteran owned, and I wanted to have food with a mission behind it. Not only like talking about something, but the first thing we do is we give you 2 weeks of free coaching to help you get started, because we want your mental health first, right? Because you don't have to be mental right, and then you got to have your heart right, and you got to have that gut control, because it's 90% of what goes in your body. But at the same time, you got to be price conscious. You got to also have that stability for it. You want to be able to be healthy and be able to push all that energy back out into the world. And that's a part of that mental health part, is because you think about all these things going up, gas is going up, food is going up. That's stressful. And like you said, with the kids, I mean, it's crazy.
I love that. So from inception, from start of a concept to inception, how long did it take you to put that company together? Because I've been an entrepreneur for 26 years, right? So I love anything business wise. Give me the rundown of that company. When did it all start, or it became a mindset?
Over 2 years.
Yeah, it's a process, huh? It's a process, especially with the food.
Especially with the food, and then doing it right. And luckily with my partners I have, they put a lot of money inside of it. Yeah. And you didn't want to do anything half-butt, right? And the thing about it is that, you want to be to the part where you have so many food markets out there. Everybody's doing, and a lot of them are my friends, and I love them to death. Yeah. At the same time, I actually learned from them. I grew from them. And I said, I've tasted all the foods. And I'm like, okay, I want my food. I'm a chef, damn it. But I wanted my food to have the cigarettes say, wow, this is nice, it's fresh. And then it goes into the packaging, what you put in the facility. And it's not just a money laundering. I say money laundering, but it's a money pit where you put a lot of money into it and you're not getting anything back. And we've all been there. We've gone to a fast food restaurant, or we've ate at a place and like, I paid all this money and this is what I got. So I want to think about, and I always do anything that I do, I think about myself first, or how I would intercept, because I'm my biggest critic. I mean, I scrutinize myself to death on everything. Top
entrepreneurs do that. I do that all the time. I mean, you have to be at the peak and be the best of the best. You have to almost look at yourself from outside, scope it all the time, right? Kind of like pull yourself out of the situation and see yourself. Because a lot of times when you're inside and everybody around you, you're the superhero, and everybody around you is feeding you positivity and you're the hero, you don't really see what's truly happening. So sometimes you got to sit back and kind of look at it through a different lens and just see what's happening, right?
And, and that's one of the things, I don't like yes men.
I love that. Me neither.
I don't like yes women. And it's to that part where everybody, yes, chef, I get it. But at the same time, I need that diversity. I need that hard love. Yeah. And I also need people with some humility and gratitude. Yeah. And you're not the smartest person in the room. And even if you are, I don't care, right? I need to hear from everyone. And I won't, because you need, as an entrepreneur, you need that mixed median of people 100%. With different mindsets and different avenues, whether they came from the streets or whether they came from Wall Street.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So you say you're in 48 states?
Yes.
So you have, I'm assuming co-packers in each state, or are you shipping from different regions? Like how do you control that? That's a big operation right off the bat.
So that's the point. So why it took so long is that we're going to go smaller, but we started right off the top because I know myself and I know how hard charging I am. We started off with 600,000 we can do in a month.
600,000 like meals.
Yes, in a month.
That's big. How are you not scared of quality control when you're dealing with so many co-packers? I'm just trying to be real.
No. And that's a great question. So to be very honest with you, it's a very high octane. A lot of money went into the facility.
Okay. So you guys have your own facility?
Yes, we built.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a different ballgame altogether.
No. We built our own facility. That's the whole part about it. Right? Yeah. So all the Capitol Avenue, everything went inside.
Where's the facility based out of?
In Utah.
In Utah. Okay. Very, very cool. Yeah. Okay.
And what about Utah is you can actually get things a little bit more nice, fresh, sustainable, organic vegetables, meat, so forth, so on.
A lot more farm life up there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. So very good. I mean, you put the time into it. How many partners are in this? Do you mind me asking?
No. We have 4.
4 partners. 4 partners. Very, very cool.
All 3 military combat veterans, Purple Hearts, Bronze Star.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about your military. What got you into the military? When did you first register? Let's talk about your history with the military.
Military was embedded in me, which I didn't even know because I'm the youngest of 2. Well, it's me, my other sister, who's a colonel in the Air Force.
Oh, beautiful.
The other 6 family members, they were in servitude. I had a brother who was a merchant marine, another brother who was a Navy officer, a teacher, a sister who was She was a social worker, therapist for kids, another teacher, a sister she taught the blind. So my whole family structure was of servitude. And even younger. So the next one up from me and my younger sister, next sibling was like at least 13 years older.
Yeah.
And so it went up from there. So I saw them doing all these different things. And when I got into the military, I had an art scholarship, track scholarship, football scholarship, scheduled for going to the Olympics. And I just wanted to do something to give back. And I didn't even know, but my dad had this old philosophy where girls go to school and the boys go to work. Right. It's that Southern old style mentality. Right. And that's what I believe, always helping your parents, always doing this, always doing the best you can, always be the hardest worker.
Yeah.
And when I did join the military, even with all these scholarships and these opportunities, I said I want to do some of my own. Even my brother had been in the Navy at the time. I never told him, didn't tell my dad. I just did it. And because I want to do something, because I know I knew back then that they were going to try to get me to go their direction.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm sorry?
How old were you?
How old was I then? Oh my God, I think 17 or so.
So you're still a baby.
Yeah.
So continue the story with the military when you got in there.
So I got into the military and it was a whole different ball game. As soon as I got in from basic training, they put me in leadership roles. Right off the bus, literally, it was just like a movie. Rainy, dark, dripping wet. All these males, alpha males. Now, mind you, I'm from Mississippi, so only colors I know is black and white. Literally, I only know black and white. There was nothing else. And now I'm with all this smorgasbord of just rainbow of colors and people and ethnicities and just demographics and just all over the place. And this is my first time being out of the state, and the drill sergeant walked up to me and I'm wet and soaking with everybody. I think it was like maybe 100 of us or more at the time. And he came up to me and said, looked at my name tag and said, Private Rush. He said, and this is a true story, can you whip anybody ass out here? And I said, yes, drill sergeant. He said, get out front. And from there was my first introductory to leadership. And I was actually really good at it because I came from Mississippi. I was a worker, a very hard worker. My mother gave me my heart. And even though we had all these rainbows of colors and I was never introduced, I could relate to each and every last one of them.
Yeah, which is special. Very special tool.
Yeah. And I, even to this day, that's why my platform is so diverse, because I relate to people in general. I'm never the person on the inside looking out or the person on the outside looking in. I can ambidextrous do both at the same time and relate to whatever that situation is.
Yeah, that's so important. How many years did you serve?
Over 23.
Time flies, huh?
It really did. It does.
Time flies. Did you I guess you had, how many tours did you participate in?
4, and also with 9/11 with the Pentagon.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 5-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. So where'd your love for food come?
My mom, my mother.
Cooking?
Cooking came from my mom, and it was an accident because my dad didn't know, and he didn't want the guys to cook. Males don't cook. They didn't cook. We weren't cookers. I was a worker. I mean, my dad was a brawny, old, intimidating black man.
Yeah.
Scared of my dad. Back in the South, your parents can be terrified. especially when he goes to work, and you always want to please them and make them proud of you.
Yeah.
You know, he did construction for 50 years straight, and hard construction, without the machinery. And I couldn't do half the work that he could do when I was younger. Even now, I even as strong as I am, I could not match up to him, even though he's passed, to when he was at his best. He was just that guy. Right.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be that guy, not to show anybody else, but to show myself. So,
yeah, it's such a special relationship, right? If you're one of the lucky individuals, like I had an incredible relationship with my father, just recently passed away, and it's such a special bond, especially when you have somebody as a male figure to look up to. Is such a special bond for a young man growing up and having that discipline, right? I mean, the people think discipline's a bad thing. Discipline's a good thing. If it's done in the proper manner, it's such an incredible thing because it builds character, it builds strength, it builds men, right? I think it's so important. With the cooking, when did you actually take it to a next level? You started cooking in the military?
In the military, yes.
How did that all start?
Again, by accident. I worked.
It's funny how life is, huh? Like the things that control your life just happen to happen when they do, right? It's just the path where you never know what life gives you.
You never know. And the funny thing about it is that, I'm working on my cookbook right now because this is a memoir, but it's like, what's the name of it? Like The Unlikely Chef or something. I don't know, because it wasn't supposed to happen. And when it did happen, it wasn't what I expected. I thought about that Southern cooking that I felt and that feeling that I felt with my mom and my family when we sat at a table and doing everything we were doing. And then all of a sudden, I'm in this mass feeding frenzy with people just going, and it's not the same passion and love.
Yeah.
And I want to introduce that. And you can't introduce it like that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen. You have to go by your TMs, which is your recipes and this and that. You have to learn your bottom line. So you have to learn the business side of it as well. And we don't know that, which later on I had to figure it out for myself. But I wanted to give some type of passion for it. Luckily, early on, I got introduced early to be able to do some stuff, and went to a culinary show, and it changed my life. I didn't know what culinary was. Guy saw me. He was like, I want you to come to culinary. I'm like, I'm a kid, I mean, do some stuff. And he literally fell in love with me. And from there, the rest is history. I picked up books and bought books. There wasn't any Googles or internet searching.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And in the culinary world, competitive world, it doesn't translate well on paper. You need to physically see it and how it is, like all the tutorials we see right now.
Yeah.
So I made 1,000,001 mistakes. I failed 1,000,002 times. When I succeeded at one time, that was all I needed. And it was a necessity for me. And I was happy about that. But even when I say I failed, I succeeded because I needed those failures. I needed that success. I needed those life lessons to get me past that, to be able to do that.
I love that. So how did that translate to working at the White House as a chef and all that? How did that all translate from the military to that? Was that part of the process, or was that after?
No, it was part of the process.
That was part of the process, huh?
That was part of the process. And that was another story, because that wasn't supposed to happen either. Because the person who got me there was a person who didn't want me to come there in the first place.
Explain.
So when I had to trial for a job in Washington, D.C., I was at Fort Campbell in the military, and someone called me up one day and said, "Hey, chef, do you want to come and try out and come to D.C.?" And I was being a smart bud, and I was like, "What, you need me to come over and take somebody out?" I'm down for that. Let's do it. I was a pretty active kid. I was pretty gung-ho, meaning that I love the woods, I love the water, I love the field, I love the dirt, I love the grind, but I also like to be fancy every now and then, when I do my cooking stuff. But my commander hated me being, he hated that cook shit, as he would call it. It was time to get to the real army, real military, which I was so into that part of it that, even that cook shit was part of the military.
Yeah.
That was part of what we do. Every aspect of every job in the military is what we do, and it's relevant, no matter how minute you may think it is or whatever. But food, which I found out was the foundation, because it was morale.
Yeah.
Food will bring you up. You know, food was one of those things where I got a good hot chow, from coffee to tea to just a hot meal and a cot. It was what it was.
Yeah.
And long story short was, I went and tried. I tried out. I had to go to the Pentagon. I tried out for 4 days straight. Other people were trying out also. They were there for like 30 days. I had 4 days to prove myself.
Yeah.
And it was unlikely that I'll get the job just because I had 4 days. They had 30 days.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to happen. That's all they gave me.
Yeah.
And I worked my butt off, like I always do. Literally, I worked hard. I didn't even look at any pictures. I didn't look at anything. I just worked. I wasn't in awe. I just came there to work like I always do.
Yeah.
I did the exact same thing when I got to the White House. I never looked at anything. I'm like, what's my job? Because I didn't doubt myself, but I knew myself. I knew that people were going to judge me. I knew people were going to be looking at me, and they were going to try to look for any fault or any explanation they can not to hire me, to see that I'm going to mess up. That wasn't in my head. Not that I didn't believe in myself, but I know people. First impressions are a thing.
Yeah.
So after I left there, I waited for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, finally 4 weeks later, a Navy guy called me up. And he told me, hey, I want you to come into DC, pack your bags, we're going to go. And when my commander found out, he didn't want me to go. And he was upset about it. And then the actual colonel that was in charge said, leave him alone. He is going. Now, fast forward 15 years after that, this colonel who told him to leave me alone was now a general, and he remembered me, and he told me why he wanted me to go, because he said he needed people that he knew was going to do great things. So when he said that, I went there, and this is when I got introduced to joint forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. We're all together, right? So this doesn't happen a lot. Yeah. Right. So there had Army guys, Navy guys, and so forth, so on. The Army guy didn't want me to come. And I found out early on that he didn't want me to come because one of the other guys told me, like, hey, he didn't want you here, blah, blah, blah. And I knew he didn't, but I still worked really hard for him. Yeah. And he wouldn't show me anything because he just didn't show me a lot of stuff. He would kind of arbitrary. We worked in the same place. And I told him, I was very honest with him. I said, hey, I'm not going to kiss your butt. I said, I'm here to do the job. I said, just let me do it. And he didn't like that. But long story short was we had a big event and it was for some royalty. And something he had done a million times that was perfect because this was a great chef. I mean, to this day, he's my mentor. We're greatest friends. Yeah. But for some reason, this dessert that he did fell apart out of the blue. And it was, I say in my book that food can save lives and end lives and can start wars and peace and all that. It's true. Yeah. I mean, people don't understand how important it is, how food, especially in the White House. Yeah. And he panicked. He froze. Long story short, I had to do it, and I did it. What would take literally a whole day to do this thing because it said overnight, I did within 30 minutes. And after that, the guy told him that he said, he saved your butt. This guy saved your butt. And when he said that, he meant that because it would have ended his career. Yeah. The next day, he came to me afterwards. He said, good job, chef. And he said, hey, I want to take you somewhere. And like I said, this was a great, great chef. Yeah. And he brought me over to the White House. You know, he said, I can let you knock on the door and get you in, but everything else is up to you. And that's what happened. And I got on the door and I didn't look left or right. I said, what's the job? What do I have to do? And that's what I did. And that's what I continue to do. Are you still currently working there? So I go in a different capacity now. I mean, I'm my profile and what I do with suicide and with all the things in the military and all the advocacies that I stand by and I do. Yeah. So it's a little bit different now. Yeah. It's so what I find impressive is when you see an individual realize the importance of self-branding to
advocate and help other avenues. And you're doing that to a T. You're building your brand at such a rapid pace, which is going to add so much more value to everything else you do. So I love that you're doing that. I'm gonna go somewhere else. Bodybuilding. Where's it? Have you ever stepped on stage?
I mean, I got 24-inch biceps.
I know. I know. You can't hide those babies.
I've never stepped on stage. I've been on stages before, but not as a competitor. I love my bodybuilding community. The bodybuilding world is a different community like nowhere else.
Yeah, of course.
Nowhere else. I mean, the relationships are extremely different. And I brought a different demographics. There's a lot of the guys say, Chef, you bring a different spectrum to bodybuilding because I preach the mentality of wellness, of health, of nutrition, on how to eat, because I make those little bland foods that they eat from the rice and chicken that has no taste. And I said, hey, I'll make a gastrique out of water. I can add these different types of things of just herbs and spices and add them in and just highlight them without the sodium, without this and that, and make it good, make it enjoyable. Eat food. I understand it for your body, but you want to enjoy it as well. You want to be like, oh, I'm eating 10 times a day. This is going to be some good 10 times a day, not just I see them all the time. But the bodybuilding world, from the Arnold I just came from to Dan Solomon, Jake Woods, Olympia, the Fit Expos, UConn, the Fit Cons. I'm at all of those things, and I'm humbled by it, and I'm grateful by it because people come up and they respect what I do in my craft. And as a lot of people say, we love you because you're not, I won't say the word arrogant, but you're very approachable. So I don't stand behind booths. I go out into the crowd, which I do get mobbed. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I do get mobbed, but that's part of it. Because if it wasn't for them, I would not be here. I would not be relevant, and I need to let them know that if I take pictures with 1,000 people, literally the first person that I take a picture with, the energy that's there, that 1,000 person is going to be the same energy. There's not going to be any hesitation whatsoever. So that's why I'm so thankful for it.
Do you think that's sustainable as you keep growing?
It has been sustainable.
It is. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I still answer all of my social media myself. I mean, all my social media, I do that for a reason. I don't have my teams doing it because I have such a diverse, I've gone viral a few times from Snapchat to other countries, to this place, that place. And one time I went viral on Snapchat. Recently, I got 28,000 kids that came over to my Instagram and saying thank you. I mean, young kids, think about that.
Oh, it's awesome. It's amazing.
I was talking about bullying. I was talking about this. They said what I did and why I did it. They were like, "You're a superhero. You did this, you that." Even their parents came over, like, "Thanks for being that role model." People say, "Well, I'm not a role." Every last one of us that chooses
100%.
It is a role model.
Yeah,
you are accountable for actions. Yeah. You persuade people's directions, and you can't say you don't. If you're trying to sell something, you're trying to get them to buy something. Yeah. You're doing that because of your profile, but you put out what you get, and it's that energy that you want to give out and take in.
Yeah. I mean, you can even talk through on a micro level. I mean, as a parent, you're a role model, and what do you do and how you act in front of your children is going to be reflection on their peers and their stuff. It's just this domino effect, right? So it doesn't matter what level you're at, you're always going to be a role model on one level or another, which I love that so much. So let's talk about even fitness. I mean, you played sports and all that. When did you take weightlifting such a at the next level? When did you put so much time and effort into? Because obviously you put a lot of time and effort into your body.
Out in the military, not before.
Yeah. Oh, so it was during the military.
Yeah. I was in Mississippi. People, it's funny because we had this conversation. I don't think people understand that I wasn't in that era. I mean, I had Arnold Schwarzenegger's book because my brother brought it back from the military, and I basically stole it from him. Well,
is it the Arnold Encyclopedia?
Encyclopedia.
I have that at my house. I love that.
He left it in my mom's place.
Big ass thick one.
Yep, that big, exactly, a big ass thick one. And at the time, I just looked at the pictures. I didn't read it because I just wanted to see what was going on. Later on, I read it, but even so, in Mississippi, we didn't have gyms. There was a YMCA that you had to pay for. And then even in our school, it was a little makeshift gym that was only during that time.
Yeah.
But I worked, I could do push-ups and I could do this, and my dad would say, it wasn't like that. I could do a little bit of things, but I also, unbeknownst to myself, is that I learned my body at an early age because of that. And I'm happy because my body, I could see, and my body would talk to me. I could see what things were working and what wasn't working and how it was working, without taking anything. So that was important. I didn't know how important that was back then. That I saw my body changing as I was doing things. Food was my medication, my supplements, all those things. I would try to eat when I could eat. I couldn't afford new shoes. I had to wear shoes for 2 or 3 years in a row, so the accessibility was not there. We didn't have those drugs around or accessible, or at least I didn't know of. And if I did know, I wasn't familiar with anything like that. Later on when I got into the military, I realized that I was faster, stronger, more endured than a lot of the guys that were already there, whether it been running, whether it been working out or whatever, because I was strong as a horse, which was my nickname, right? And then when I realized that if I worked out a little bit more, my body did this, my body did that, realizing food. And then that's when I started going and learning about the nutritional parts of it, the aspects parts of it, and what you need to and what. But I also learned that everybody's body is different. I thought everybody's body was like mine. I thought our bodies all alike. I thought they grew the same. I thought they could do this and do that. I learned.
I'm sure there's a lot of guys that wish that.
No, I'm serious. I was dumbfounded, especially after I started doing and becoming Chef Rush in this industry. I laughed at first, but I was really surprised at the lack of how much these kids, they couldn't believe that you can do anything, that you can put your body to the test and work on yourself. Those 24 inch biceps are not possible because you have to. I had my biceps cut off. I had my shoulders cut off, operated on. I had my leg blown up. They told me my biceps wouldn't grow. This is not, was it Synthol, which I didn't even know what that was at first. I didn't know the word natty. I didn't know any of these things, which, mind you, I don't care. And I have all my friends, and whatever they do, and that's them. And I tell anybody, if you decide to do anything, be knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, understand. Very important. Very important.
And like I said, I have Uberman sleep cycle. I don't get a lot of sleep, but I'm like a functional, I use the terminology, a functional alcoholic, right? I can get a little sleep, but I can still work. My body would crash and go over. Like if I sleep 2 hours, or I sleep 4 hours, I'm not going to lie, I don't sleep over 5 hours. I don't sleep, basically most of the time I sleep 4 or 5. I know how essential that sleep is for people to recovery, right? I also know that I've taken pills, I've done this, I've done that. I also know that how important it is later on as I'm going through that I'm going to have to get everything tested and checked. Like I tell people with your blood work and see if your ticker is working right, if your blood, your high, your levels, all these things are important that we always forget about, especially this day and age. And the reason why is because of what we put in our bodies. Those things, not medication, but food. All the food that we have has some type of
processed.
Exactly.
Yeah. The hormones process. There's so much. Yeah, it's a different mindset, man. I mean, I come from a Portuguese background, European, so you look back at grandparents and great grandparents, and they're in their 90s and still healthy, and their mind's all there. And then now you get guys, and I mean, you get different generations that in their 50s they're already having elapse of memory and just things are just happening, and you see their bodies going, and it's just this constant crap we're putting to ourselves 24/7, right?
No, you're right. I mean, and you said that you hit it on the head, because I see guys that are 50, 55, 60 years old, and I'm looking at them like, what's wrong with you? I'm thinking they're like, well, when I was your age or when I was this, and I'm like, there's no when. I used to be. There's now, there's present, there's relevancy.
Yeah.
I tell guys even now they're in their 20s or whatever, I say, hey, you deserve to be that way. You have all the keys to all the doors, right? You should come and talk to me when you get after 40, 50 years old and you're still maintaining yourself, your mental, your wellness, and saying that you're still being that example. You're still doing that, you know? And that's what I look at right now. Anybody else, I just say, you know what, that's a given. I don't even care what you look like. Coach, talk to me later on. Talk to me later on and show that you're going to do and that you're going to give back with it.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach, right? I mean, you have to have that mind, body, and spirit, and just and spirit could go any direction you want, whether it's religious or just mental, but it's having that holistic approach, right? Taking care of yourself, your well-being, man. And it's crazy as people don't realize this, and this is something I preach all the time. Is a lot of people focus on as being entrepreneurs or focus on their family. They don't realize you got to take care of yourself first. Of course. If you're not at your highest peak, you're not going to be able to serve or give to others or do what you want to do at this high peak, right? So sleep, is this something, do you go through, and why I'm going to say this is because my sleep patterns are pretty messed up. I mean, I go through exactly me. I'm up at 4:30 every morning. I could go through sometimes going to bed at 1, being up at 4:30. I'll do that for 3-4 nights, and then I'll be in bed at 6 o'clock and at 6 p.m. because my body I need that crash out. Do you have those crash out moments?
So not as soon as you do. My crash out moments will come probably in months, right? Most likely
that long, huh?
Yeah, it's a long haul. Because what my body does, if I sit back and sometimes I fall asleep, right? I can go into a REM, within a few, and people don't understand what REMs are. And all
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
I can go into a REM, and when I wake up, my body will trick itself and think that I slept for hours when I literally slept for 15 minutes. And it's like, and I hate it because I know it, but I have those prayers. Like this morning, I woke up at 2:30 this morning. I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning. Yeah. And I haven't been back to sleep, right? I did my thing I need to do, meditate, push-ups, yada, yada, yada. And now I'm talking to you. And once I get through this, I will give me something to eat, something else to eat. I'll go to the gym for about an hour. Then I'll come back and I have another podcast. Then I'll start working on my business plans. I'll do all my stuff for my business. I'll do all my emails, do this. And before I know it, it is 12 o'clock at night again. 12 o'clock at night, I'm doing everything I'm doing, in between trying to get something to eat. And now I eat a lot. My body needs a lot because I'm an endurance trainer. I do the 2,222 push-ups. And so people say, how can you do that and have this least amount of sleep or this least amount of food that you're getting in? But my body, again, your body is an amazing, amazing asset. People, just like your mind, how they say you use that 2 or 5 or 10%. Think about your body on that part of it. My body, and the terminology, survival mode. Yeah. My body survival mode is tricked where it uses more so my, when you go into survival mode, how it burns your muscle first and then saves your fat for energy. My body does the opposite or more so. So it'll burn the fat because it thinks it needs the muscle to do all these push-ups and do all the endurance that I'm doing. Yeah. And they kind of keep going on that part of it. Yeah. And so they little things where people will say that's not possible when actually anything is possible.
So when did that whole push-up challenge for Vet start? And let's talk a little about that, because it's something I've had a few Navy SEALs on our podcast. I've actually had a whole bunch of Navy SEALs on our podcast, and Ray Care, a whole bunch of them, and it's something that we've talked about about that. I mean, the mental aspect of coming back from certain challenges, and I was the other day I was reading somewhere, I heard on a podcast they say more vets die from suicide than die at war. Am I right with that stat?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little about that. Where did that push-up challenge start, and how, as a society, like what could be done to, and obviously you're doing your part, but what could be done more? Because it feels like there's not enough being done by enough people to really, really give back and really help these individuals at another level.
No, it's not. And it's because it's stigmatized, and also because people don't make it an issue until it happens to them. Yeah. And that's human nature. right? It's like cancer or any other thing that, it's like, people will laugh about or mock it, even on social media, or even you got these bullies or however you have. They don't say anything, but when it happens to them, their family, to someone they care about, then they want to talk about it, march about it, be about it. When they should be about it, talk about it, march about it every day, or have the compassion and empathy to know and understand that every person that may be going through something. Me as a big guy, I get bullied all the time on social media. People tell me, go kill yourself, go do this. You shouldn't be alive. Do you think it affects me? I have PTSD. So I had to learn how to do that and how to combat that. That's why I meditate in the morning. And I think about everything that's negative. So when the 22 vets, when I started the 2,222 push-ups a day, it's for the 22 vets that commit suicide a day. But that's the vets. So the military doesn't take record of that aftermath of kids, spouses, cousins, anybody, grandfather. It doesn't talk about them. That's just the vets.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, when you think about that,
Yeah, we think about that in perspective, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about somebody who's trained for trauma and war and all these different aspects of it, now think about their family members, their wives, their husbands, their kids who are not trained. They're just normal people who don't know what's going on, that doesn't know how to cope, with these triggers, alcoholism and all things. I was in an inpatient for 6 months. I was another inpatient for another 5-6 months. And I was an outpatient for a whole entire year. And it was terrible for me. I was combative, meaning that my mind, and all they did was sedate me with medication. I was a big guy, right? That's the most logical thing to do. Let's get him under control, right? But you didn't help me. You weren't helping me. Right? That control part of it, just medicating me, did not do it. So when I finally decided to do the 2,222 for the 22 vets, was that 22 vets, and we were doing a 22 challenge, people were doing 22 push-ups a day, so forth, so on. But I said, we needed something more. I'm a big guy. Nobody's going to look at me and say, oh, he did 22 push-ups. Oh, well, right? So when I did start doing 2,222 push-ups, people didn't say, oh my God, that's a lot. They were saying, why such an odd number? Why such an odd number? Why two? What's the two about? Yeah. Right? That's what people ask. Why two? Yeah. And that was my way in, right? That was my way
to open conversation.
Open conversation. And people would say, I did not know that. Oh my God, I had no idea. Like you, my causes are real, but I also have to be very strategic with them. I have to be very cautious with them, because you can have everybody out here doing the exact same thing that have relevance and no relevance, but you have to have people that's going to be able to engage with you and understand it. And then think about the 2,222 push-ups, even at my size, people are like, oh, you're too big for that, until I actually get on the floor and I'm doing all these events. And I'm like, okay, we're going to push. And then they're like, okay, I get it, Chef. I got it. And, they'll do my one push-up challenge and they'll cry, from young kids to first responders to military guys who like, it's not about the push-up, the numbers. And I say, you're doing one for the struggle, and I make them struggle. And I said, it's all about the struggle. You can do the push-ups for, because you have an end goal. Now think about this one push-up that you can't do, that you're struggling with, and now you're frustrated. And they do get frustrated. Like, I can't believe I didn't do this one push-up. I say to them, now think about every person that's going through something. I've lost guys from suicide. One of the guys, so in my book, I tell about, a story about suicide and how it was his death was unnecessary. Like a lot of kids that are unnecessary. It comes from that secondhand or that third-hand trauma, or people just being mean, or people just bullying just because they can, or they grouping up together just to attack someone. And I mean, it's happened to me, and it's like, how do I deal with this? And people don't understand that, that we're all trying to do this thing together. And so that's why I'm fortunate and I'm grateful and humble, because I went viral a lot for the push-ups or for the biceps. But the end of the result was about the mission behind it, the statement, the mindset behind it, why I'm doing it. And so I love that. And I'm appreciative of every person, every platform that's pushed that out.
I love that. And I love that you're bringing it to the relatives, the family as well. And when you talked about online bullying, I mean, it's something that's very prevalent with just kids in general, teenagers, young teens nowadays. And the suicide rate the numbers are just, they're incredibly growing at an incredible rate, right? How does this, like, even when we talk about a children's level, take it away from the army or the military, when we talk about children, does it start at schools? Like, where does education have to really start? Because it feels like the people talk about it. They have their pink shirts, their bully shirts. It's not enough. There's not enough.
Honestly, it starts at home, right?
Yeah.
It starts at home because here's the deal. You can't cover your kid their whole entire childhood and then send them off to school where you got mixed people and you know how it is right now, right? You have to educate them. You know, you're like, I'm not going to talk to them about that. I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to say that. You have to get them to understand at an early age. Prepare them. You know, get them. I'm not going to lie to you. My mother and my father prepared me. I didn't know they were preparing me. I had no idea. They were just talking to me as parents. Yeah. Right. You'll be surprised how many parents and people I see where they put this blanket over their kids in this bubble, like they're going to be protected their whole entire life. Yeah. They're not. Somebody's going to get to them. Yeah. Somebody, I don't care if they have all these people around them. Somebody is going to make it their mission to get to them. Yeah. You know, so when they do have those interactions and whatnot, instead of going to these deep, deep depressions and these things where they have ideation, they are acute and aware of it. And then you can do it together. Not like it starts at home, but like I said, it also starts in the schools and it has to be more relevant. You know, these teachers, they work their butts off, you know, and sometimes is that complacency where they don't get enough respect for it, and they should. And they have to understand that these teachers need their support, our support behind it. You know, kids are different these days, a lot different than when we were. Yeah. So you, like I said, you have to be ambidextrous with that and look inside and out and understand that whole cycle of how it's actually working, especially with your kids, because they can have the biggest smile in the world, or all of a sudden you can see them in a room where they're just quiet and they don't say anything. You know, and they're wearing black and they don't interact. No, mom, dad, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. Know how to understand and how to talk to your kids. It was a lot of things. I'm like, well, they're talking to me. I'm an adult. Why are they not talking to you? Yeah. Why are they not doing that? You know, and that's when I interact and try to do it. I will never push any of my guys off, anybody that comes to me, any of my supporters, any of my fans, whoever they may be, because they're all family, and just say, call it 888 number, call it 800 number. Yeah. I talk, I interact for a second, because sometimes that's all it takes. It's just a little bit of interaction. That's worth
showing that somebody has an ear, somebody has a listen, somebody wants to care. That's all it is.
Exactly. And I'm okay with 5-10 minutes of my time. You know, I'm okay with that. If it's going to help somebody get over that hump or save a life, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something simple. I mean, there's two things I want to bring into there. I was smiling the whole time because as a parent, I got a 14 and my son's turning 14. My daughter's turning 16 in the next couple of months. And from a very young age, from like 4 or 5 years old, fitness has been a big part of their life. My kids don't play video games. They come home and they fight over who's going to be on the treadmill. They work out every day. So I focused on building confidence, and I've had that deep conversations. I'll look at my son, he'll do something dumb, and I'll be like, you do that shit in high school, you're going to get your ass given to you. Like, you have to be straight with them. You have to be honest. You got to put them in situations, and you have to prepare them where I've done stuff where I make them do public speaking. I make them put them out of their comfort zone. As a family, every couple of months, we'll find something that our kids are scared of or have a fear, and we'll do it together as a family. Break that fear pattern, because everything you're doing with them, it's just going to build that confidence. So when they're around other people, they're put in the situation in the room, they're prepared.
Yep, exactly. I love that. You know, and you know, when I started my nonprofit with 2222 Inc., I did the same thing. I go for the underprivileged, the kids that don't have the best. So, you know, for those mother figures, father figures, big brothers, big sisters type of deals, and have to get them to understand, because those are the ones that's going to need the most, right? Because they can change the world even more so, right? And you said a word that resonates through me. So every time I go speaking, the first thing I do when I get in front of a crowd is I say, I'm here to make you uncomfortable. Yeah. right? Because everybody is so cautious of everything, whether it be your color, whether it be religion, of how you say it. Even my friends, I'm like, whoa, relax. You know me. Why all of a sudden you got this blanket over you like you're gonna offend me or do something to me or how or why? Everybody's trying to use everything as a weapon nowadays, or an opportunity, or the weapon of opportunity. And so it's not like that, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Chef Rush, where did that nickname come from?
Nickname? That's
who you are. So what did you name yourself that? Did somebody start with that? Like, well, that's your full. You just go Chef Rush by your last name.
My last name is Rush.
Oh, yes. I apologize. Yeah. I thought that was just like a nickname brought to you and you just continue with it. That's your actual name, huh?
People say that. They were like, wow, that's a great name that you have, Chef Rush. I'm like, no, that's who I am.
I love it. Your book, Call Me Chef, Damn It. Where did that come from? Who gave you that? Like, how did that all inspire?
It's a true story because, like I said to you, long story short I was the unlikely chef. I was a black man, a black kid in all this world of chefs and doing things. And I was pretty raw and country and all these different things. I could cook my butt off, and I learned. And when I used to hear everybody calling everybody chefs, and I'm like, I want to be called that. Because they said it with affection and respect and so forth. Not that I didn't get respect, but I was just like, you know what? I want that title. Yeah. And when I got that title, they still didn't want to call me chef. They didn't want to call me chef. They just they didn't want that acknowledgement, because if it was that acknowledgement of knowledge, it's like going to being a doctor. You have your doctor so-and-so now. Yeah. You know, like, why would they not just call you by your last name? You know, so certain things I don't let people call me. I don't let them just call me Rush. I don't let them just call me, or they try to call my first name, because like you said, it's about branding. Yeah. If you Google my first name, you're not going to get anything. But if you Google Chef Rush, everything's going to pop up. Yeah. You know, it's my branding, my nonprofit, about what I do, how I do it, the suicide awareness, all these things. And I have to explain that to people. So when it happened with me with becoming a chef, one day we were really busy. I had done a million things. And the guy that was in charge, he refused to call me chef. He called everybody chef. And one day I just snapped. Remember, I was a young kid. I was younger. So he was like, chef, 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 chef. And then you. And then I literally snapped, and I kind of grabbed him a little bit and picked him up. And I said, call me chef, damn it. And he looked down at me. Yes, chef. Okay, all right. That was, like, so we all human. Like, and I didn't. And the point being is, I didn't care if I was called chef. Yeah. It was just, I needed affirmation that that I need to respect, and I want to respect. I don't care if you can say it again or however, because I'm still going to do my job diligently. Yeah. But it was a true story. So I said it, and I always say it. I'm like, they're like, call me chef, damn it.
I love it. I'm going to ask you one last question. Because I know you want to hit the gym and do your stuff for today. If something were to happen today, in a few words, how would you want to be remembered, described by your loved ones?
If something were to happen to me today, it's funny because I said this, that I didn't want to just do this just to be doing it. And there's so many people trying to do things, and you don't know what the reason behind it are, leaving back behind like a legacy. I say a legacy, a legacy of love, right? LOL, a legacy of love. And I say it because I want to, like, when you hear the word, like, oh, remember Chef Rush? Like, first thing pop in the head, they're like, oh man, he's a great guy. He did this for the kids. He did suicide awareness. He brought the things about being this big guy and the fitness. And that's why my platform is so diverse, because when I started, people just said this wasn't going to happen. They were going to say, you got 5 minutes of fame. You're not going to go anywhere. This is not going to be, literally, I heard everything in the book of you can't, you won't, and everything. I gave up my mother and father. I lost them doing this, right? My mother died right when I was speaking on a commercial, doing the stuff to get everything out. And
she's looking above, proud of you, brother.
Yeah, her and him. And I still do that for her. I just talked to her last night when I was up at 2:00 this morning. right on my cupboard. I still remember her. And, and one of the things I was saying lastly is because I always wanted to be one of those guys when my mom grew up in Mississippi and lived in projects. I'm like, oh my God, I want to get my mom this big house. I want to make her so proud of me. I want to do this. And I never got that opportunity. I never got to spoil her like she deserved to be spoiled, like she did for all of the 9 kids she had. She worked her butt off, and I never did that because I always thought I had time, right? Time is something that we take so dearly for granted.
It's the only currency you can't buy, Reddy.
Yeah.
Only currency you can't buy, right?
Yeah. And right after my mother went, my dad followed right along.
How long ago was this, Chef?
This is just 2 years ago, right?
So 10 I'll share you a little story. 10 months ago, and I'm very open with it. 10 months ago, my father passed away. I was the 45-year-old that would call my dad 3 times a day. I would call my dad on the way to work. I would call my dad before I went to bed. I would call him on the way from driving home from work. I would give him a call. And I had a very good relationship with him. And I have 2 children. He spent tons of time with his grandkids. We're always together. We're going to car shows. We're always together. Projects, working, construction. We'd always be together. And when he passed, I still had regrets. I still wish there's things I would do with him. And no matter what, you're always going to have regrets. You're always going to have moments. But you have to really just focus on the precious times you had with them. How old was your mom and your pops when they passed?
My mom she passed a week before her birthday.
Yeah.
She was turning 79. My dad was 83.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's just like, I'm my mama's boy. I was mama and dad.
Me too. Same thing. Yeah.
I call my mama. I
love that.
And in the midst of it, I was doing a commercial with Gary Vee he was looking for 7 inspirational people out of his millions and millions of followers. And I was one of them. I was in New York, and my sister called me and said, you need to get to see your mother, come to Mississippi to see your mother again alive. If you want to see her alive again. I went there, and it was the most devastating thing I could possibly see. And she knew it. That was what made it so hard for me, because she knew she was dying and she didn't tell me. She didn't want to tell me because my mom was a giver. And I say she sacrificed herself for me to do what I'm doing. And so that's why I work so hard. I do so hard. I give even harder, because everything I do, from this book to the food, it's a mission behind it. It's a statement behind it. I don't just do it just to do it.
I love that. When my dad passed away 6 days later, like the first 75 days, I went every single day to the cemetery to visit him. Oh. And when he passed, 6 days later, I've written books before. I have a book called Entrepreneurial Dad, which was the #1 seller. Then when he passed away, I took pen to paper 6 days later, and I wrote 6 children's books. I released 2 of them, and they're all in memory of my dad. And the first one, they're lessons. They're actually my son, my daughter, and my dad. The first one, if you can see it, is called Strawberry Mountain. It's a lesson on gratitude. The second one that was released is called Kindness Goes a Long Way. And they're all Grandpa Joe's adventures. And what I want to do is kind of there's something to leave a legacy of his memory, right? And all the things he did and the lessons he gave to my children. And the proceeds go to Sick Kids Hospital. And all of them start off by the same thing. And they say, in loving memory of Grandpa Joe, you're tender and kind. What a beautiful memory you left behind. And I mean, everything you're doing, I could honestly tell you, Chef Rush, is every time you talk about her, whether it's on a podcast, through a story, through an interview, you're passing her memory along, and you're telling her beautiful story along as well. So I commend you for that, because that's all we could do at this point, right? And it never. Everybody talks about grief. I'm a strong believer that you don't forget about people. Time allows you to understand it more. And start respecting and cherishing the moments you did have with them, right? So it doesn't get any easier. I mean, you're 2 years, and I'm sure you'd love to pick up the phone every day to still call your mom or your dad, right? So it's just the way life is, and it's just the circle of life. But we just have to appreciate the time we did have with them, and we're lucky enough. There's a lot of people that don't have time with their parents. Their parents died at a very young age, right? We are both very lucky to have our parents to a certain age, right? And I still have my mom, and I'm grateful, and I say this a million times, that if my mom were to go before my dad wouldn't have lasted a month later, just like your dad, because he was so dependent on my mom. He was more fragile. My mom's a very strong woman, so it's allowed her to, with our support, it's allowed her to keep on living. But it's hard even for her. Like my dad retired at 55, early retirement, factory worker, worked at Ford Motors. My mom took early retirement. For the last 20 years of his life, so till 75, my mom and dad never spent one day apart.
Wow.
So it's you don't hear those stories very often, right? How many marriages are truly like that nowadays, right? So life is hard, man. Life is hard, especially when you lose a loved one. But we just have to keep their legacy alive and keep their memory going, not to ever be forgotten, right?
Yep. No, and thank you for sharing that with me, especially about the children's books and your dad. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, very, very. I appreciate you, man. I love everything you're doing, man. You're when I saw everything on you on social media and I wanted to reach out to you, I started looking more into you and I started looking at what you do and actually having the time to talk to you. Everything's legit about you, man. You're just a good soul. So I appreciate everything you're doing. Your smile, you're infectious. You're doing a ton of incredible stuff. And the bigger you get, the more of an outreach you're going to be able to help and grow. So I love to see your journey, and I hope this continues as a friendship, because people like you are the type of people you want to keep in your life, right?
Of course. And that's very rare because you don't get true people like that. I know I've lost so many friends and family and things that I thought was on my side. And you know, right now at this time of my life, like you said, friendships, those relationships are more important to me than anything. More important. 100%. You know, people don't know, they don't understand, you know, it's your mental wellness. And so when I do come to Canada, we are going to be, I just have to warn you, I do eat a lot.
That's okay. I know a lot of great restaurants.
No, but I would love that.
One last question. I keep staring at that picture behind you. Is that an owl on your face?
Is that so? I'm gonna tell you, this picture right here behind me is special because this is from my guys at the Secret Service.
Oh, okay.
Right. So every time one goes or they do something or whatnot, they make this is my alter ego right here. This chef with this right here is one of the pictures that went viral with me.
Okay.
And so they have like this, they don't put a face on it, right? And they have the whole thing, but I'm an artist also, so I'm gonna put my original stuff on side of it. But it's just, it says something to me. It's like, it's kind of like a skull, you know?
Okay,
like,
okay.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
It says a story that's not told. And I like it, and I put it up there because it's like, this is your alternate ego, because you do so many different things and faceless. Nobody knows who you are, but you're doing things that people, because I don't share a lot of stuff. Even the stuff I show on shows, I do probably about 90% more than the stuff I show on social media.
Which is so amazing. So amazing.
You know, so they were like, Chef, you don't, and we've always taught to be like secretive. You know, when I say secretive, it's like you said a key word is that, you know, as you grow, you're gonna your platform is gonna go. At first, I just kept it tight. I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm this guy, I'm talking about this, talking about that, because I always saw other people doing it, but they were doing it for the wrong reasons. But I'm like, I'm doing it for the right reason. Why should I not talk about it? Why should I not make it aware of it? Why should I not be accused by it? I'm talking about kids. I'm talking about sexual trafficking. I'm talking about these things, and it needs to be heard. Yeah. And so, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I've been doing. So I appreciate that. Yeah, that was for my
That's guy. Pretty cool. I was the first thing I saw when I was trying to figure it out. I said, that's had to be a question I was going to ask you. This has been awesome, brother. How could the audience get a hold of you?
I am on Instagram, Real Chef Rush, Twitter, Real Chef Rush, Facebook, Chef Rush. ChefRush.com is where my book is. Amazon, all over.
Is it on pre-sale already?
It's on pre-sale. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So I'll put that on all the links and everything like that. Yeah.
On all the avenues, even my chowmeals.com. Lunch is only 28. So and everything, people can actually reach out to me directly. I love the energy that people bring along. So I'm appreciative of that.
I love it, man. Thank you. This has been awesome, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Jeff Rush, for taking time out of his busy schedule to be a guest on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. What an incredible individual. Such a fun conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I have. Like all weeks, tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word. We're trying to build something special here. Leave a review. 5 stars would be absolutely amazing. Myself, my team love spending time reading the reviews. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward.